understand. This land that you stand on, that you think is America, this is actually Africa. The dear Mississippi that you love, that you know of, that's the Nile River. This is our land. You are Aboriginal Indigenous American. You are a Moorish American. So where is their green card? Where is their green card? Huh? Huh? They need weapons. We don't need no weapons. Huh? Huh? Stop calling us black. We're not African American. We're Moorish American.
I'm gonna start this over. It looks like it's acting crazy.
This land that you stand on, that you think is America, this is actually Africa. The dear Mississippi that you love, that you know of, that's the Nile River. This is our land. You are Aboriginal Indigenous American. You are a Moorish American. So where is their green card? Where is their green card? Huh? Huh? They need weapons. We don't need no weapons. Huh? Huh? Stop calling us black. We're not African American. We're Moorish American. Aboriginal Indigenous. Know the land. Know the laws of the land. Know your birthright and nationality. You are a Moorish American. Fight for your nationality. The Pope said stand up. The Pope said stand up. The Pope said stand up. Know the land. Know the laws of the land. You are an Aboriginal Indigenous American.
Moorish Americans are indigenous to America.
The conversation stopped.
In 2010, President Obama signed on to the rights of indigenous people.
Moorish Americans are not African American or black. There has been some attempts made by the mainstream media and journalists alike to link the Moorish Americans with the sovereign citizens movement. Moorish Americans are not sovereign citizens.
Just know. Peace, 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 and bliss to anyone that has come in. Royal Bloodline, Ottawa, Everyday an Indian. I know that's right, sis. We're about to get into this build. Hope you guys are having a great day. I did not even think I'd be able to get in here. I was actually on my way out, and I got caught and said I'm okay for the moment. So I said, let me do a quick live on this. Try to get this out the way because I definitely want to get into a new legend story tomorrow. So much has been going on. I have not been able to finish what was going on with SCAREFACE. So we're going to get that out the way right now. Go ahead and take care of that so that we can get into the next build. Along with this, we're also going to go over some Mayan and Incan pictures and documentation. Also, we will, as much time as I have, be going over Mayan and Inca pics and book. Okay, it's going to be the next yes. All right, guys. So let's do this. I'm going to get to the story. Actually, just to save myself, you guys know I've been so busy and I'm pretty tired, but just to kind of save myself, I'm going to have it read for us, just so I can get into the other information as well and be able to, kind of go along, with going into the information and reading for that. So we're going to start here. Let me get this story together.
Ed, what is it? What is it? He asked. I rest here in my lodge tonight. Indian legends rest here in thy lodge tonight, he said. And tomorrow I will show you the trail. Two bright eyes shone through the bushes. Wolverine was there. I rest here in my lodge tonight, he said. And tomorrow I will show you the trail. Sun lives on the other /side of the big water. I will show you the trail to the water. That night SCAREFACE rested well. His friend gave him meat to eat and comforted him with promises for the morrow. For the first time since he set forth he slept in hope. In his dreams he seemed already to be treading the trail to the sun's launch. Next day Wolverine showed him the way, a hidden and lonely way, a trail like 1,000 others, made years before and forgotten. Scarface followed it alone. All day he broke branches from before his face. All day he felt with his feet for the packed earth beneath the tangled growths of wood and prairie, and at evening he lost the trail, for it had run out into the sands of the big water. The waves had washed away all traces of other steps. Scarface stood alone on a desolate shore, looking out upon miles and miles of trackless waters. At his feet ripples broke, farther out breakers, white-crested, rose at the beach, and then fell.
All right, now what happened? Oh, my phone's ringing. Hold on, guys.
Assented the swans. How then can I reach him? The young man asked. No man can swim so far and live. Is there no other trail? I am willing to walk for many moons. There is no other trail, but we can carry you across to where the trail begins again. First one of us will carry you and then the other. Rejoicing, he got upon the back of one of the swans, and gloom lifted from his soul as the fog lifted from the waters. He rode triumphant over the awful depths. Below him, strange people moved. Some of them hunted with fierce greed, some of them fled, afraid. The swans' black feet paddled swiftly in the water below him, safe among the fishes, their white plumage ruffled in the clear air above. When his heart sank with fear, it pulled down the swan that bore him until its long neck scarce sufficed to lift its head above water. When he thought of the maiden he loved and of the trail that yet waited for his footsteps, his eager thoughts drew both swans ahead, plunging through the water in a track of foam. On the farther shore a broad brown trail led straight east from the water's edge. He went forth upon it with eager steps. Some distance along the trail he found a war shirt, a shield, and a bow and arrows. They lay beside the path as if someone had dropped them there and forgotten them. Scarface took them up, looked well at them, and laid them back again. Presently he met a young man coming toward him, his face casting a light before him along the way. His hair was long and bright, and so fine that the wind lifted it and sprayed it abroad upon the air. His clothing was made of strange skins, and his moccasins were sewn with gay-colored feathers. High. Called this young man to Scarface. Have you seen any weapons and clothing along the trail? I saw them back here a little, Scarface answered. I will show you where they are. The two young men went back together, and Scarface gathered up the weapons and clothing and handed them to the other. The young man did not look at them. His eyes were searching Scarface's mind. You are no thief, that is plain, was all he said. How do you come upon this trail? Whom do you seek? I seek the Lodge of the Sun, answered Scarface. Many days and nights have I traveled in vain, but now I think I am on the right trail. Is it so? It is so, indeed. I, myself, am Morning Star. The sun is my father. Come with me, and I will show you his lodge. They went on together, talking as young men will when they meet on the way and their hearts go out to each other. My mother is Night Red Light / Morning Star explained, and we three HV alone together. All my brothers have been killed, and I am often lonely. Have you brothers? I have no one. I have nothing but a lonely heart. And that is set upon a young maiden, oh, the fairest in the world. Who is obedient to your father. I may not marry her without his consent. For that I come. Do you think he will give her to me? I do not know, but I will do all I can for you. He is kind, but he is stern. Do not tell all until he knows you. He is not young, as we are. Presently they came to the lodge. It was very large and fine. Medicine animals were painted all over it. As the wind shook the walls, it seemed as if they moved and were alive. Night Red Light sat within, near the door. She came out only at night. She spread a mat for her son's friend, and gave him food. Scarface, looking into her mild face, beaming pleasantly upon him, told his story without fear. She said nothing, but he felt her sympathy. A step was heard outside. Hide there, said the kindly woman, pointing to a pile of skins in one corner. The son came in and stood in the doorway. His presence immediately filled the house. It was everywhere, except behind the pile of skins. He had his head and breathed deep, looking all about. There is a man here, he said, looking fixedly at his wife and son. Why do I not see him? Ah yes, father, said Morning Star, at once. A good young man has come to see you. He found my weapons and my war clothes lying beside the trail, but he did not touch them. Scarface came out from behind the pile of skins. The son looked at him, and the young man bore his gaze. Scarface did not look back, for no man can outface the sun, but stood before him, straight and unashamed. You are welcome to my lodge, said the son at last. Carrot, smoke a pipe with me and my boy. I am glad that he has a young friend to talk with. He is often lonesome. I have lost all my other children, mourned Night Red Light. Down by the big water they were taken from me. Great birds live there, with long, sharp bills. They kill whatever comes in their way. My sons were brave hunters. One by one they went forth against the great birds, but no one of them all came back. Hunt with my son wherever else you please, but do not go near the big water. I do not like the big water myself, replied Scarface. I came across it on my way here. It is no shame to a brave man to be afraid of it. It is very terrible, and it hides things still more terrible. 2 helpers brought me across safely, but my bones trembled. I do not wish to go near it again. For many days Scarface and Morning Star hunted together in the sun's country. There was much game, and the 2 young men were full of life and strength. Every evening they returned to the sun's lodge well laden, and Night Red Light, before she went forth on her nightly journey, fed them and made them comfortable. Both she and her husband were glad that their son was no longer sad and lonely. But one day the chase led them into a wild region they had never been in before. Careless of where they went, they lost their way in the deep woods. They were not afraid, but laughed and shouted among the still shadows. What fun it would be to camp out all night like warriors. At length the woods seemed to thin at one side. Light shone through. They rushed toward it. A low noise, as of something living and moving, drew them on. They burst from among the trees upon the shores of the big water, stirring and whispering secrets under the open sky. We must go back, said Scarface. You remember what your mother told us? I am no longer a boy, to be tied to my mother's apron, cried Morning Star. We did not come here on purpose, but now we are here I shall stay and look well at this wonderful thing. What is on the other side of it? Or does it go off under the sky? Look, every once in a while, you can see it stooping to go under, and there where it slips in, something is coming out, something with wings. Perhaps, oh, Scarface. Perhaps they are the great birds that killed my brothers. We are, too. We will take revenge upon them. But your mother, protested Scarface. She told us never to go near these birds. My mother is a woman. What does she know of hunting? I feel the blood of my father in my veins. I shall avenge my brothers. There was no time for Scarface to remonstrate again, for the air was suddenly filled with rushing wings and hoarse cries. It grew dark around the 2 youths, and they shot their arrows wildly into thick feathers on every side. Wings beat down their bows, sharp beaks tore at their breasts. Upon Morning Star was the wrath of the birds directed. They scarcely heeded Scarface, but soon his bright and beautiful companion was borne down beneath their weight, and lost in another rush of their beating wings. Now Scarface sprang into the thick of them, and grasped the midmost birds by their necks. He flung them over his shoulders, and tore 2 others from the breast of his prostrate friend. Their long beaks were dripping with so Scarface sprang into the thick of them, and grasped the midmost birds by the neck. Morning Star's blood, but he still moved and breathed on the ground, though he could no longer fight. Scarface stood astride of him, daring the fierce onslaught of the birds. His eyes were clear and steady. 2 by 2 he caught the creatures as they came. No matter how many shrieked in his ear or tore at his flesh, no matter what heavy wings beat him, he steadily reached into the dark and noisome mass, found 2 long throats, wrung them, and flung the bodies over his shoulder. A pile grew behind him, so high that he leaned against it as he fought. The air grew sweeter before him. Now there was room to breathe. He leaned over his wounded friend and felt for his heart. As he stooped, the last bird plunged his bill into his back. Without looking around, he caught it with one hand and tossed it aside. His friend's heart still beat. He stood up and drew a long breath. He brushed the bloody feathers from his dress. The waters still whispered softly at his feet and, far beyond, crept in under the edge of the sky. When he had rested a little, he
So I'm not sure what happened. It blacked out. I got so much shit going on, guys. I was trying to do this real quick. Now my plans have changed once again. We have like a few minutes here. Let me get back to the story. Okay, let's go. Yeah, about 10
Morning
minutes.
Star's blood, but he still moved and breathed on the ground, though he could no longer fight. Scarface stood astride of him, daring the fierce onslaught of the birds. His eyes were clear and steady. 2 by 2 he caught the creatures as they came. No matter how many shrieked in his ear or tore at his flesh, no matter what heavy wings beat him, he steadily reached into the dark and noisome mass, found 2 long throats, wrung them, and flung the bodies over his shoulder. A pile grew behind him, so high that he leaned against it as he fought. The air grew sweeter before him. Now there was room to breathe. He leaned over his wounded friend and felt for his heart. As he stooped, the last bird plunged his bill into his back. Without looking around, he caught it with one hand and tossed it aside. His friend's heart still beat. He stood up and drew a long breath. He brushed the bloody feathers from his dress. The waters still whispered softly at his feet and, far beyond, crept in under the edge of the sky. When he had rested a little, he tore off the heads of the birds and strung them on his bow. Hanging it around his neck, he stooped to his friend, shouldered him, and moved off into the dark woods. Night Red Light came forth to look for them. She saw them, and lighted their way home. She hid her face with clouds, and wept through the night because her son was hurt and she could not return to him before morning. The sun received them and helped to lay his boy on the bed and to dress his wounds. Just before dawn, Morning Star opened his eyes on his father's face. I thought to avenge my brothers, he murmured, but you would have been childless if Scarface had not been near. Tell me, Scarface, my friend, how did you escape? By killing them all, answered Scarface. While one live, the fight went on. I will show you. He went and brought his bow, hung, wood and bowstring, with gory heads. So many there were, he said, and no more. Night Red Light sailed through the door and dropped down at her son's feet. She held them to her breast and wept over them. She threw the bow with its weight of heads out of the door, nor would she look at the long bills that had sought the hearts of her boys. Then the son asked the question he had never yet asked. Why do you travel this trail so far from home? What do you seek? And Scarface told him. I came seeking you, he said. Far back yonder, in my own village, lives a maiden whom I love. But she belongs to you. Because you commanded it, she will not wed. Her heart is toward me, and she told me to come and ask you for her. She is a good girl, answered the son, and you, my son, have proved your right to my help. The son loves all good women, and pities them. They shall live a long time, and so shall their husbands and children. The sun gives them good husbands, brave in war, skilled in the chase. Now you will soon go home. But first let me tell you something. I am the only chief. Everything is mine. I made the flat plains, the craggy mountains, the bristling forests, the moving rivers, all the earth, the people, too, and the animals, I made. They die, but I never die. In the winter I grow old and weak, and men think to see me die, but in the summer I grow young and strong again, and men know that I live. Scarface stood with head bent, as if listening, but he heard scarcely a word. His heart was singing as he thought of the maiden he loved. Night red light was bathing her son and combing his long hair. She had heard the tale of her husband's greatness before. Morning star lay resting. The sun went on. Who is the wisest of animals? The raven, because he never wants for food. Which animal do I like best? The buffalo. He is food for my people, and shelter as well. Indian legends and lo. That cheek was as smooth as the other. Which is better, the heart or the head? The head. The heart often lies, the head never. Come with me to see the world. Scarface went with the sun and looked over the edge of the sky to the world below. It spread wide, in a great circle. Mountains were heaped up on it here and there. Forests covered it like thick fur. Water lay shining in the hollow places. All around, at the edge, a straight wall went down and down. Scarface could not see where it went, but then his eyes were busy searching for the lodge of her he loved. When he saw the little spring, like a shining dot on the edge of the woods, and the pointed lodge nearby with the blue smoke rising toward him, he smoothed his scarred cheek and sighed. The sun, smiling, led the way to his lodge. There he took some strong medicine and rubbed it over the scar, and lo! That cheek was as smooth as the other. Scarface had the sign he longed for. But this was not enough to ease the heart of his grateful friend. Night red light gave him beautiful clothes, morning star heaped him with presents, and the sun told him exactly how to make a medicine lodge and what to do to invoke his aid. These things are done to this day in the Blackfoot medicine lodges. Everything is done as the sun commanded. Scarface, after his return, taught the people. He was the first medicine man. Then the sun showed him the short trail home. In his eagerness the young man leapt along, and his footprints sparkled with joy. You can see the path yet across the sky, arching down to the earth. It is fainter now, but you can still see that some glad person has walked there. The maiden sat beside the spring, waiting. Not even at night was she afraid now, since here she had found Scarface. His shadow lingered in the place and made it safe and comfortable. She looked into the quiet waters, slowly welling up, and saw the stars shine, spread abroad, vanish. She saw a trail of stars reflected there. It grew as she watched, and seemed to come nearer. Startled, she looked up, and found herself in her lover's arms. And the first days, there lived an old woman in the midst of a wide, level piece of country, called Root Flat. The ground was full of roots, nearly all of them good to eat, and every day the old woman went about digging them with a sharp, crooked stick. She began with the far edge first, and dug all around the great flat. Then she dug another circle, just inside that, and another inside that. And so she went on digging, a bent old woman, moving in circles, prodding away with her stick day after day for many days, until there was only a little island of untouched land in the middle. On this island stood her lodge. One day she was digging near home. All around her for miles stretched the brown earth she had turned up. A faint mist rose from it into the morning air. The world was big and fiat and empty, even the roots were almost gone. She heard a noise that sounded like a cry, *AI. AI. AI. It came. She looked up into the air. Nothing was there but the high roof of the sky, not even the sun. She looked around. The brown heaps of earth she had turned over in her search for roots smoked to the edge of the sky in every direction. AI. 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 Sounded the cry again. She put her hands to her ears. There must be something wrong with them, she thought, since they heard such strange sounds where there was nothing. AI. 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 She heard it clearly. It seemed to come from the ground at her feet. She stared at the ground, but it did not move. AI. 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 She heard it clearly. Surely the cry was coming from the ground. She took her root stick and began digging, very fast. She found nothing at first, and at last there was only one lump of earth that she had not broken. She pried her stick under this and turned it over. There lay a little brown baby in the brown earth. The old woman stooped and took him quickly into her arms. She wrapped him in her buckskin apron and rocked him to and fro. She was glad. Now she was no longer alone in the empty world. So good baby. So, she sang. She took him to her lodge and washed him. She rose in the night and washed him. She could not sleep for thinking about him. Every time she washed him, she said aloud, I wish you to grow fast, be a man soon. Be strong and good. Often she would rock him in her buckskin. R-1 the old woman stooped and took him quickly into her arms, apron and crooned to him, so. And he grew fast, in his grandmother's apron. By the time he was 5 weeks old, he could stand alone and walk a little. He had teeth and began to talk. By the time he was 6 months old, he was as large as a boy of 12 and played around outside the lodge. Then
When he was 6 months, he was large as a boy, the age of 12. A 6-month-old baby, the size of a 12-year-old. We're talking about the ancient times when the babies were humongous. Guys, I definitely got to leave out. I only started this because I thought I wasn't going to have to, and something important I have to leave out. So we're going to stop here, and we will continue this afternoon or later this evening. I'll let you guys know. Just keep tuned for the bell. Hopefully they'll give you guys notification and we can get to the finish of this then. So I'll leave this here, and until later, peace, love, light, and energy to all.